So, you want to record some acoustic guitar, but you've only got one mic. Shh, for the sake of this video, this guy doesn't exist. That is not remotely a problem. A lot of the time when people are talking about recording acoustic guitar, they are going to suggest a lot of setups that involve two microphones and possibly also DIing the guitar. My preference is some form of stereo miking setup. The point being, you may only have one input, one microphone, one thing to record your guitar with. And that is not remotely a problem because you can obviously record guitar with just one microphone. And actually, sometimes recording guitar with just one microphone is gonna be preferable. Hi guys, it's Sam and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome to the chaos. I do all things music related on this channel, from mixing and audio engineering style content, songwriting challenges, and videos where I'm just talking about music and musician life. Today's video is on the audio engineering side of things. We're doing some recording setups, and it's a kind of video that I don't do a lot. I've done a similar-ish video to this a little while back in that I did a video where I was experimenting with different duo mic setups for recording acoustic guitar, mostly because I had recently just acquired a pair of microphones and I was looking to mess around with some setups with them, as I hadn't really had the option of stereo miking in the past. I am a musician in a budget in this little home studio setup of mine, but I don't usually do videos like this where I am sharing any sort of advice or tips, because I am still more to the amateur side of things than I am the professional side of things. A lot of the advice that I can pass on is going to be stuff that, as far as I'm concerned, it's already out there and I wouldn't really be adding much of anything. But every now and then a video idea crops up, and for this particular one, someone on my TikTok actually asked if I would be willing to do some videos on miking up acoustic guitar with only one mic, because they only have one input, one mic. And I thought, you know what? I actually know quite a bit about this. There are lots of videos about miking up acoustic guitar in general, but it might be nice to have a video that just sort of collates a bunch of knowledge together into some general things to think about when you've only got one mic and you want to capture the right acoustic guitar recording. There will likely be a follow-up to this video where I play around with then mixing the guitar tracks that I have recorded for the purposes of demoing in this video. Before we get on to any actual mic setups, I thought we should actually talk about why so much of the advice is around miking up a guitar with more than one microphone. Because the why of that is also important to then what you would choose to do if you don't have that option. If you get more than one recording of the same sound source, of the same instrument playing the same part, you can then use those two different recordings you've got, those two different tracks you've got, to place that particular instrument in your stereo field in a wider way. So a lot of time people will mic up acoustic guitar using it some sort of stereo miking placement. Maybe they're doing an XY miking placement right in front of the guitar. Maybe they're doing a spaced pair with one near the neck of the guitar and one near the sound hole or the body of the guitar. And then they will likely pan those two different tracks differently. They'll pan one left, one right. This gives you a nice wide feeling to anything you do this with. It gives whatever you've done it with a full sound in the sort of spatial experience of listening to music without making it loud, you know? Because there's volume in music and then there's like presence. It's kind of hard to describe exactly what presence is, but it isn't how loud or quiet something is. It's how much of it you're getting in the track. So something can feel like it's all around you in the track, or it can feel like it's really up front, or, you know, it can feel like it's completely off to one side, it's in one ear. And these sorts of effects can be better achieved if you have multiple different tracks of that same recording that are ever so slightly different in some way, i.e. one's got a mic that's pointing that way, one's got a mic that's pointing that way. You're getting a slightly different recording of exactly the same part. The other two major reasons are just about capturing different tones. So you'll use more than one mic because you want to place them in different places. Or you might do one close mic, one room mic, and then the room mic is giving you this sort of natural ambience and reverb that you quite like a lot of the time. You get different tones from different microphones, different pieces of gear. So you might want to capture the same part with a couple of different microphones, maybe because you haven't chosen which microphone you want to use for this yet. It's easier just to get someone to play something once and record it once with multiple microphones than it is to keep setting up the different setups and have them keep doing the same part over and over again. That's time is money. So those are the reasons why people use multiple microphones when they're miking up pretty much anything. The vast majority of instruments, you can capture anything with just one microphone. Some instruments, it's going to be more important to mic up separate parts of it, something like drums. Acoustic guitar is one where whether you want 2 microphones or not is actually one of your first decisions you want to make when recording it. If you're doing a track that has a lot of parts to it and the acoustic guitar is just another texture, another layer in it, it's not an upfront lead part, then it's not as important that you have multiple different tones of that guitar. Anywho, but all of this is stuff that you want to think about if you're only able to mic up your guitar with one mic, because they're going to help you to pick what you want to do based on what you want to recreate, what sort of sound you're going for. So let's get on to showing some examples and talking through where to place your mic and why you would pick to place it there. I'm definitely not going to say in this video to always place your mic 6 to 12 inches from the strings around the 12th and 14th frets. That is advice you will get. That's a good placement a lot of the time on acoustic guitar. It will communicate a lot of the character of the guitar you're recording. 9 times out of 10 I will find that I probably do place a mic in that sort of position. This is a close mic technique, i.e. the microphone is close to the thing that you are recording. A lot of the time you're going to want a close mic in an acoustic guitar. You don't have to place it between the 12th and 14th fret. Where you place it is going to depend on where certain things resonate on your guitar. For instance, sometimes I will find that particular resonant frequencies that I am often having to drop out of my guitar actually resonate more on certain parts of the body than they do others. The only way you're really going to figure out where your guitar sounds best with just one microphone is to set up a microphone, play a part, move the mic, play a part, move the mic, play a part, and try a few different placements. You know, you'd be amazed how much literally just moving a microphone a few centimeters one way or the other, how much of a difference that makes in terms of the tone you get out of instruments like acoustic guitars. Generally, when you place a mic closer to the fretboard of a guitar, you're going to get a sound that is less bassy, more trebly. It's not going to have as much of that oomphy resonance. If you place your mic closer to the sound hole, this is where you're likely to get the fullest, most bassy sound. You're also likely to get a lot more of the sound of the pick or your fingers hitting the strings, because generally you tend to be strumming the guitar over the sound hole, but you might not be. You might be strumming down, you might be palm muting and strumming down closer, in which case that's not something you're going to have to factor in. You could mic your guitar up literally just around the body. This is probably quite rare for people to do when they're only using one microphone on acoustic guitar. It's not something I would recommend if you want to get that nice acoustic guitar tone. Like, you're not going to get that nice acoustic guitar tone if you just place a mic like low down on the body. This is something you're a lot more likely to do if you're using more than one mic, so that you can add the tone that you get from the body into just a general acoustic guitar tone. But you never know. You might be recording a particular part for a particular song where you want quite a boxy sound. You get this very low-mid sort of resonance that sounds quite boxy. Sometimes for parts, this has added a nice extra tone to something that I've quite liked having there. Other times, it has made my acoustic guitar sound awful. The next thing you want to bear in mind when you're close micing any instrument is how close to close mic it, because of this thing called the proximity effect. The quick explanation is that basically the closer you get to your microphone, whatever your sound source is, so in this case my voice, the closer I get to this microphone, the bassier my voice will sound. The further away from this microphone I go, the treblier my voice will sound. I will say I quite often don't place it that close, just because it really is not comfortable to strum, in particular, with the microphone quite that close to you. It ends up sort of hovering over your knees, so then you also capture like every little movement. I prefer it to have it a little bit further back, but again, it depends on the tone you're going for. when choosing how to mic up your guitar, whether you go 6 inches or 12 inches isn't just about how comfortable you find that position, but it's also about how bassy you want your sound to be. A bassier sound tends to feel more like present. So if you want that really intimate, detailed acoustic guitar for like some finger picking style guitar type sound, you probably are going to want to mic a bit closer than if you just want some general chords being strummed in the background. Because when you start to lose those bassy frequencies as you move the mic back, you really lose a lot of that guitar's presence. You could go even further away than that though. Because you don't have to close mic your guitar just because you have one microphone. Normally, having a room mic is something that is supplemental. It's something additional, something you have on top of your main mic. You close mic your guitar, and then you also have a room mic. You might only want that more distant reverby feel. Say you're doing like quite an atmospheric track maybe. You want acoustic guitar in it. That acoustic guitar is maybe doing some gentle plucked arpeggio type thing. And miking that up with just a room mic could actually give you quite a nice tone that then you just add a little bit of extra reverb to, and it sits quite nice and far back in your mix. It's gonna give more of a roomy feel. Okay, so those are all just like the basics of miking up a guitar and the main choices you want to look at. But let's also talk about how whilst using just one microphone, you can kind of cheat a little and maybe get some of the effects that you would get from using 2 microphones. So for instance, if you want more of that mixed tone, like you want that close mic feel, but you also want that room mic feel, there are ways that you can achieve this with mixing, but I'm not going to cover them here. But there is also one major way that you can achieve this with the microphone itself. There are lots of large diaphragm condensers out there on the market for varying budgets that have this option on them. It has the option to change the polar pattern, the pickup pattern on the microphone. So that's where on the microphone the mic is actually recording. So the vast majority of large diaphragm condenser microphones that you're going to get are going to have a cardioid pickup pattern, but there are models out there like this one where you can switch it to do a different pattern. And the one that we're dealing with here is that we can switch it to omni. So I played around with this in that previous video that I did recording acoustic guitar, where I was playing around with different settings, and one of the things I tried was close miking the guitar, but switching the polar pattern to omnidirectional. What essentially you're going to get is the room presence. It's going to be kind of like having a room mic without having a room mic. It's not going to be exactly the same because you're not going to be able to pick where in the room your room mic is going to get the exact ambience sound that you want, but it can be a nice addition. If you want that close mic and room mic feel, try doing this. The other downside obviously is also that you can't treat those 2 different tones differently. Like you've got that close mic feel, you've got that room mic feel, but you've not got them as 2 separate things, and you can treat differently with slightly different EQs, slightly different reverbs and things like that. You know, it's not perfect, it's a cheat. The other thing you can do is relating to how using 2 mics gives you options for having it wider in the stereo field. Your other option, other than just miking up the guitar with 2 mics and playing it once, is to simply play the same part more than once. Double tracking. As a general rule, people do this with backing vocals, where things can become tricky in a way that, you know, it doesn't with something like a vocal. If you're doing something like just a really simple picked kind of thing, or just like chugging really, really simple, off you go. It's going to be really easy to double track that. But where it becomes a bit trickier is if you're strumming acoustic guitar, some of the strumming patterns you can do, you're very likely to find that you will never be perfectly in time with yourself when you do it again. They're in time enough that when you play it with the drums, it all sounds fine. But then when you play 2 guitars playing that exact same part, it starts to sound messy because one isn't in time with the other. Resign yourself to the fact that you will likely be editing the timing on that guitar to get them to sit nicely together. A lot of the time, if you've got some strummed acoustic guitar, you might want it to sound quite laid back, but the second it gets like too perfect, it stops sounding as laid back. Okay, this is what I feel I can pass on in terms of knowledge about recording acoustic guitar and things to bear in mind, think about, and to experiment with. If anybody thinks I've missed anything, or just wants to generally leave their own tips or some weird thing that you tried that actually worked really well, please do leave them in the comments below. Also, feel free to say which of the guitar tones that you heard today in my little demonstration clips. Which one did you like? Which mic placement were you feeling with the Taylor? I personally think that she sounds particularly good when I'm strumming 12th and 14th fret every time. Doesn't sound very good over the sound hole, I don't think, strumming. When I'm doing fingerpicking stuff, I might go either or. I might go sound hole, I might go 12th and 14th fret. I think it would depend on how bassy I want it to be. If you enjoyed this video, then you might want to hit that subscribe button, because like I said, I will actually be putting up another video that's sort of a follow-up to this, where we're going to play around with some mixing stuffs. But I know that's a big commitment to make, so if you want to check out some of the other content on here first, there'll be something recommended on the end screen. If you want to follow me on all my socials, they are linked in the description below. There is also a link down there to my Buy Me a Coffee, where if you join my membership, you get outtakes videos and other silly stuff, but you can also just send me a one-off little donation to say, I enjoy your content, buddy. Okay, that is everything. I shall see you guys next week, probably with that follow-up video to this one. Bye!